Tim was a hard worker. He loved his family. He loved the Buffalo Bills. He loved country music. He was an artist. He could draw paintings at a young age. He did them for businesses around the area. He did them for families, for murals. He did over to Leroy High School. To this day, we can still go over to that field house and look at the night that's there. And it makes us proud that we can say he was a part of that. Tim's job was a laborer in a construction company locally, and he did take some flag training course prior to starting. But when he went over there for his first day, he basically was putting guardrails up and sorting bolts and doing that. That was Monday. He worked Monday. Came home. He was sunburned, looked a little tired. He had his dinner. He laid on his bed. That's the last time his mother saw him. I got up the next morning because it was going to be very hot and I wanted to tar my back roof. And I got up at 5, and at 5:30 I went outside, and when I got up through the kitchen I saw a bowl of cereal. He was sitting on the steps putting his work shoes on, and I said, what are you doing? It's 5:30. He goes, I got to be in today at 6. I got to be in earlier. And I said, okay, here's what you got to do. Just from what I knew yesterday, you need to eat your lunch today. You need to drink your water. And he said, okay, I got to get going. I said, okay, have a good day. That's the last time I saw him. Never saw him again until we identified him in the back of an ambulance Tuesday evening. I got that terrible call from the sheriff's department. You're not prepared. And I never want a family ever to get a phone call that says, come and identify your son because he died of heat illness. And it was just a situation where he goes into work on Tuesday, not feeling 100% probably. Starts working again in excessive heat. You never would think it. I just thought this, boy, I'm so proud of you. Go to work. You're gonna do well. But you never think he's not gonna come home. And the thing that I wanna really focus on or make a point of is, it's the employer's responsibility to make sure you provide a safe workplace. That's number one. And if you provide a safe workplace and you take the time to look out for your employee, then this should never happen. He just wanted to do a good job. And he did. And he paid a price for it. And it's preventable. And it should never, never, never happen again.
So several days after the incident, I picked up the phone and called Jim Barber, I was given his name as the next of kin, and introduced myself and explained what OSHA's role would be in the investigation. And from that initial conversation, Jim and I seemed to develop a rapport right from the very beginning. One element of this particular case is that we're in Western New York, and people don't look at Western New York and think heat illness, but it's an important factor to consider. People aren't used to working in 90+ degree weather with high humidity. One of the other elements of this particular case that I think is important to note is Tim was a healthy 35-year-old male. People don't, take into account that heat illness is something that can infect anyone, not just someone who is might be compromised medically or have some other risk factors. What employers and employees need to do is understand that heat illness is a real hazard in the workplace.
employers can prevent heat illness in the workplace with several straightforward actions. First, develop a heat illness prevention plan that outlines procedures, supplies, and equipment necessary to protect workers from heat exposure. Provide training to managers and workers on the signs and symptoms of heat illness. Nearly 3 out of 4 heat-related fatalities happen during the first week of work. Employers need to make sure that new and returning workers acclimatize or build tolerance to heat. It's important that workers drink water, take rest breaks in the shade or a cool area, and wear a hat and light-colored, loose-fitting, breathable clothing to prevent heat illness. Monitoring workers for signs of heat illness is important. Do verbal checks frequently with workers wearing face coverings or personal protective equipment, such as respirators. And finally, encourage workers to check on each other too. By taking these actions, employers can keep their workers safe and, importantly, prevent fatalities from heat illness, like what happened to Tim Barber.
We never thought we would be sitting here today talking about this tragedy, but it can happen. And I think he's looking down at us going, "Thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mom. We appreciate what you're doing for me." And if we can make a difference that no mom and dad ever has to go through this, then we've accomplished something. And if we can use Tim's name that we're very proud of, that would be even better. We also want to protect other families and workers, and we want business to be aware that this should never happen. But overall, he was just a loving son that we miss dearly. And, we're just deeply saddened that he's not here to enjoy some of those family events. And his sisters and brothers have had a hard time going through this. It's just not the same. And it's tough when you go to the cemetery, and we see him every week. He's got his Bills flag. He's got handprints of all the grandkids, his nieces and nephews. Beautiful flowers that Kathy does. And you look there and go, "You're here. We just can't see you. And you're in our hearts and minds, and we love you dearly.